Hello and welcome to my channel, In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne and today I'm going to show you my children's classics library. So I don't have a huge selection of children's classics in my library, but I do have enough that this might take a minute. So we'll try to be brief about each of the books. You might remember, if you are doing my Reading the Classics challenge, that for March, the prompt is to read a children's classic, which kind of coordinates with middle grade March. I just wanted to show which children's classics I have in my collection at home. These are actually only the ones that I have in my personal library. My children have others in their libraries, but I did not want to take the time to go in their rooms and pull out the books that they have. Also, technically, that's not my library. Those are their books. So I didn't want to pull those. So these are just my personal library. And they're not necessarily even my favorites, except that in the end, they probably are. Most of these would definitely rank as favorites of mine. It's just the ones that I happen to have and happen to have kept for many years in some cases. Let's start with the one that I have the most copies of, which doesn't necessarily mean that it's my most favorite. It just means that I happen to have collected enough copies of this one that I want to keep for one reason or another, and I have not been able to get myself to get rid of any of them. So I still have them all, even though I haven't actually read from them all. This is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This is the copy that I read from as a teenager myself. Definitely quite vintage. Let's see. It has some really cute drawings and illustrations in it. When was this one printed? It doesn't say. It's feeling like 50s or 60s maybe. Oh, this says 1963. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Ah! Okay, and this is, I didn't realize that. I had apparently bought this as a discard from the library in the county where I grew up in Maryland. So the Carroll County Library. I must have bought it at a book sale and when I was little. So that's funny. Anyway, yeah, this is my old copy. So this one has sentimental value, even though it's falling apart and I'm not going to read from it again. It has sentimental value and I am not going to get rid of it for that reason. But I have some other copies of Little Women. I think two of these, I want to say, came from my sister. There's this one. I love this. I love the beautiful cover here. I just think it's gorgeous. I want to say this was a gift. Not 100% sure about that. This edition is 2013 Sweetwater Press, produced by Books A Million. So, Books A Million is closed now, right? So this is just a really pretty copy. And so for that reason, I'm keeping it. I don't want to get rid of it because it looks pretty. And this one, I know for sure my sister gave me. I love the drawing on the front of this. And that's the spine. And the drawing continues on the back there. It's just a really, really beautiful edition. Hardcover. There's another full color illustration. Illustrated by Louis Jambor. This is printed by Grosset and Dunlop. This is a 1994 printing of, I believe, a 1947 edition. So this particular one was printed in the 90s. And look at the pages. I just like how that spread is. And it has some drawings throughout as well. And the one I most recently acquired, which I showed you, is the Annotated Little Women, which is annotated by John Matteson. This is the one that I'm going to be reading from next. It's ginormous, and I do love the cover. This one is full of also illustrations and pictures and annotations, notes about the Alcotts and Louisa May Alcott in particular, notes and information about adaptations of the story. I'm really looking forward to reading this at some point, hopefully this year. That would be my goal. To reread Little Women from this annotated copy at some point this year. But this is probably my favorite edition because it's the one I specifically chose to get. And someone sent it to me. A subscriber sent it to me for my birthday or for Christmas last year. And I am really grateful for that. And I'm so excited to dig into it. But anyway, as I was saying, it was the first one that I specifically picked because I wanted this particular edition, not just because I like Little Women in general and, oh, that's a pretty copy, but because I wanted to read this annotated version and I wanted this particular edition. So this is definitely one I'm going to be keeping. I have two other books by Louisa May Alcott that I want to show you. Now, when I was younger, there are two authors that I read everything by them that I could get my hands on. Louisa May Alcott was one. So I read, I'm pretty sure, almost all her children's novels when I was young. And then Lucy Maud Montgomery was the other. And I read everything that I could get my hands on as far as her books go. So I have read most of Louisa May Alcott's children's authors. She was very influential for me when I was young. Looking back now as an adult, I would say she's probably not my favorite children's author. I find her just too didactic and moralistic in a lot of ways, but I am going to be revisiting her children's novels, and I also want to expand and to read more of her other adult novels that I've not read as much. So I do have two. Rose in Bloom. This, again, is a vintage copy. And this one is... oh my goodness, Roman numerals. 19, it's an L and a V, 55. 1955 is this edition here. And I want to say this one also I had picked up when I was younger, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I may have picked it up since that time. But anyway, and it doesn't have any illustrations or anything. It's just this very basic hardcover. Whitman Classics. And then this is Jack and Jill. I did have a copy of Jack and Jill for many years. That was the one that I read as a child, but I think it got like a beat up, and at some point along the way I unhauled it. I wish I hadn't. It's one that I wished I had kept, but I went to replace it last year, and this is the one I found. It did have a slipcover, but it was kind of ripping and it wasn't very pretty, so I just got rid of it. But you can see on the front inside, this picture was on the front cover. So you still have that full color illustration there. And this is another vintage copy. What is with the Roman numerals? 1956. Well, that's the illustrations are copyright 1956, but that doesn't necessarily mean this printing was from 1956. But it could have been. This could be a 1956 copy. So this is a Nelson Doubleday edition of Jack and Jill. And I am hoping to get to this one in March. This is my read for March that I'm really hoping to get to. I mentioned that Lucy Maud Montgomery was another author that I read everything that I could when I was a preteen. And as an adult, I still love her. She's still one of my favorite authors, and her books have stood the test of time for me. And a couple years ago, I had some Christmas money to spend, and so I splurged on this entire set of the Anne of Green Gables, the, oh my goodness, what is this edition? Every time I want to say what it is, like, the name escapes me. Tundra, yes, the Tundra editions, with this beautiful, beautiful cover art. I won't show you every single book, but they all have this gorgeous, gorgeous cover art that was made with, I believe, 3D. It's like 3D paper in a light box and photographs taken of that. And then it just makes these fantastic, amazing, beautiful covers. And it's a really nice quality paperback, which is a wonderful reading experience as well. So I have all 8 books in this series in the Tundra editions in this box set. The box is a little bit cheap. I will say. So that is unfortunate. It's kind of falling apart, but the books are the main thing, not the box, right? I think most people probably don't keep the box, but I like it that it contains all of them for me. I do have some Lucy Maud Montgomery books that I have kept with me since my childhood, but I'm going to show you right now some that I've picked up more recently, and that is the Emily trilogy. The Emily trilogy is one I'm not actually sure that I read, at least not all 3 of them. I know I knew about them, but I don't specifically remember having read them. So I do want to read these. I'm on a quest to read or reread everything by Lucy Maud Montgomery. Eventually, I don't have a time limit on that, but I did pick up all of these so that I can get to that trilogy. These are the ones that I've had since I was a little girl, and that is one of my favorite series besides Anne, the Anne series by Lucy Maud Montgomery, and that is The Story Girl and The Golden Road. And this is, I think it's a duology that tells the story of Sarah Stanley. And Sarah Stanley, she's not an orphan, but she does go stay with her cousin's family, I think, because her mom, I think, has died, and her dad is like busy working or whatever, and she goes and stays with her cousins or something. I don't even know. But she is the story girl. She's really good at telling stories, and so these books are full of the stories that she tells, but they're also full of the adventures that the kids get into. And they live, I would say, do they live in Avonlea? No, they live on Prince Edward Island, but in a different town, like Carlisle or something. Anyway, but it's still on Prince Edward Island, so it still has that setting. And they're just so much fun. And I loved the character of Sarah in this story. And I still have memories of reading some of the antics that the kids got into, made me laugh. And so I definitely want to revisit these sooner or later. Definitely some of my favorites. Look how this book is falling apart. I should probably get a new edition, but at the same time, like, do I really want to get rid of this one? I made that mistake with Jack and Jill. I don't know if I want to get rid of it. Another one that I think that I did get rid of because it was falling apart and I have not replaced yet is The Moffatts by Eleanor Estes, which was another series that I really enjoyed when I was younger. And I had a copy of that book for a really long time, and it was definitely falling apart. But that's a great one too. Love that series. Another one that I've had since I was young was The Prince and the Pauper by Mark Twain. This was back when Walmart used to have those children's classics, 2 for $1, and I had a few of those at the time. And this is one that I have held on to since then. I've only read it once. I remember liking it. I remember thinking it was funny. I remember really enjoying it, but I don't remember too much more than that. Now, the rest are books that I have picked up along the way, but most of these are books that I remember very fondly from my childhood having read, and that's why I have purposely picked up copies, and I've tried to get some nice editions of them. So the next one is Little House on the Prairie and Little Town on the Prairie. I only have these 2 books in this series at the moment. And I have this one, which we picked up at Laura and Almanza Wilder's homestead or farm in Missouri a couple of years ago when we were there on vacation. And this was a special anniversary edition of the book that was at the bookstore there. And it has a little sticker from the bookstore on there. And I think it has a nameplate. Yeah, a nameplate from the bookstore there to remember the museum by, which was a fantastic museum. Highly, highly recommend. My favorite part is you can see Pa's actual fiddle there, which is just, that was amazing. And then this, I got this past summer, Little Town on the Prairie. I got it at the Little Town on the Prairie, which was DeSmet, South Dakota. And again, this was in the bookstore. Now, this one, they didn't have anything special, like any nameplates or whatever, but I got this one there. I really love these editions, and eventually I'd like to collect some of the ones. It does, like, they're not the same size. And this one I think only had, this is the only one in this exact edition. I think there are these in all of them, this version. So this was kind of like a special one just for that book, Little House on the Prairie. So yeah. Frances Hodgson Burnett was another author that I enjoyed when I was younger, but I only read, I think, like her 3 main novels, Secret Garden, The Little Princess, and Little Lord Fauntleroy. And Little Lord Fauntleroy, I don't remember much about. I don't think I really liked that one very much, but I really loved The Secret Garden and A Little Princess, and I read both of those more than once. And as an adult, I've picked up some copies of them. In particular, I really love this copy of The Secret Garden, which I think I ended up buying. Did I get that on Thrift Books a year ago or so? This is a Puffin edition, 2010 printing of the Puffin edition. I don't think it has any illustrations or anything inside. I just really liked the floral cover there. And the size of it is perfect, like a perfect handheld size for reading, just really easy to read from. So I'm looking forward. I know a lot of people are reading The Secret Garden in March, and I'm really jealous about that. And I kind of want to myself, but I think I have too many other things to read. So I can't, because I want to read other things more, but... And I also picked up this copy of A Little Princess. One of these days I'm going to get a nicer copy. But for now I have this one, Courage Classics. Because I got printing from the 90s, 1996 by Running Press. I mean, there's nothing particularly special about this one. It's just hardback. It is, you know, the only thing it's really got going for it. It is a nice, pretty color. The hardcover is. And the dust jacket isn't horrible, but it isn't exactly beautiful either. But I'm just glad to have a copy of that. That way, if I want to read it in the near future, I can. But I will keep my eyes peeled for a prettier copy of that one. Oh, while I am on this, I forgot to mention when I showed you my box set of Anne of Green Gables, this is another one that I have just because it's a pretty copy and I don't want to get rid of that. And that is Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Maud Montgomery. And look at these beautiful end papers. This is a Puffin and Bloom edition and printed in 2014. I really love this. I love these Puffin and Bloom editions. They're just so beautiful. I probably won't ever read from it, but it's just pretty. And another one from that series that I have is this vintage edition that I got from Taylor at Tills and Treats with Tays. And I love the vintage look of this dust jacket. And the actual hardcover has that vintage green look as well. I want to say this was printed in the 40s, maybe the 50s. If it's in the 50s, it's going to have those Roman numerals again. Oh, 1939. So this was a 1939 edition of Anne of Ingleside. And yeah, I actually think I might read, just for the experience of reading from this vintage copy, I'm going to read Anne of Ingleside from this. That's the next one I need to reread in the whole series. That's the one I want next. And I've been meaning to read it for months. I just haven't made time, but I'm going to be reading it. Another one that I read as a child. This is not the copy that I had as a child. That one definitely fell apart. And so I found this one and replaced that old one. And I don't miss that old one because it wasn't a great, it was just like a mass market paperback. There was nothing special about it and I didn't have special memories of it. And this isn't all that much better. So if I ever see a really nice hardcover copy of this book, I will get it. That is Hans Brinker by Mary Meigs Dodge. And I really, really, really loved this one as a child. I love the whole story. It's a very emotional, heartrending kind of story, but apparently I was really into that even as a child. This edition does have some pictures. They're not full color. It is one of those, I think, like print on demand, so the type is not great. So it's not an amazing copy, but I'm keeping it until I get a better copy. And then I will show you a couple of books that I got. First of all, when I was a kindergarten teacher, I got these to read to my students from. So I have fond memories of doing that. But I also used these to read to my own children when they were small. And so I've gotten rid of a lot of the books that I read to my kids when they were little, except for their favorite. This one, I believe their aunt gave this as like a baby shower gift or something, or a birthday gift. And we read this so many times. And I would get to the end of it, particularly my older son, I would get to the end of it and he would want me to read it again. This is one of those that, you know, was occasionally lost. It has like sound effects and stuff. And I love the drawings in it, the illustrations. Such a fun book. And I think that, you know, perfect for little boys. So anyway, that was definitely a favorite. And that's like a really small child book. Anyway, but I haven't kept a lot of the books that we read when they were younger. Plus, a lot of them I got from the library. Like I didn't buy a lot of children's books. But these two bind-ups I have, and I'm going to keep them forever because I just love these books. And the first is The Complete Tales of Winnie the Pooh, which I have shown before on this channel. This is a well-loved copy. So there's like, you know, grease stains on it, and there's like the binding is, you know, coming apart. But we have loved this book. We have read this book, and it's my favorite. I love Winnie the Pooh. And then a similar edition of the Complete Tales of Beatrix Potter, which my children did not love Beatrix Potter as much, but I really, really, really loved reading these. These stories were perfect for the school setting because they're short and they have so many little pictures, really engaging for little eyes to look at. And so I just loved reading from this edition, and I read all of the stories in here multiple times. So that is another favorite in my collection. The next couple books are books that I've collected as an adult and read as an adult. I don't remember having read them before. The first one is Five Little Peppers and How They Grew. I love vintage books like this with the embossed kind of patterns on the front. They're just so beautiful. And I look for these every time I go to a used bookstore just because they're so beautiful. Even if I don't necessarily know what the book is about or anything, I just love how beautiful they are. And this is one. And when I read it, I wasn't sure if I'd read it as a child or not. It's entirely possible that I did, and I had just, it didn't really stick with me too much. Aspects of it seemed vaguely familiar, but that could just be because there were aspects of it that were common in many children's stories that I had read when I was younger. So I don't know. I don't know if I'd read it or not, but I read it last year as an adult and really enjoyed it. It was just a delightful story. Five Little Peppers and How They Grew by Margaret, Sidney. And then Alice in Wonderland, I did not read until I was an adult as well a couple of years ago, and also found it very, very interesting, very witty as an adult. There were a lot of layers in that story, so I was really intrigued by it. I really enjoyed it. It would definitely, I think, be something worth rereading. And I love this Grosset and Dunlap edition of the book. Again, it's not like embossed, but it has like this printed pattern on the front that's really cool. Companion Library. And this edition, it doesn't say when it was printed. I don't know when this one is from, but it's in really good condition. And this is not the one I read it from. I picked this up after I had read it. Oh, that's fine. And finally, I'm going to show you a couple of books that I have more recently acquired that I intend to read, but I haven't yet. One is one that my sister got me, Captain's Courageous by Rudyard Kipling. Pretty sure I've not ever read this one, and she gave this to me when we did our collaboration in February, where we went to McKay's and bought each other 3 books. And this is the classic that she chose for me, and I love that it's a short classic, and I look forward to reading it at some point. And then I'm trying to read, like, my son in his 8th grade year of school. This was the first book that they read this school year. And then I just kind of took it from him and put it in my collection. I don't think he really cares. He's never going to reread it, I don't think. But this is Greek Myths by Olivia Coolidge. This is just an educational version. Oh my goodness, look at all his annotations in the front. That's so funny. I actually like reading after my kids because I like to see their annotations. I think it's fun. Anyway, he doesn't have any actual annotations in the book, which is funny because they're supposed to do that. But this was also like they read it over the summer and then they had to write like a paper, whatever, about it at the beginning of the school year. So I guess they weren't being graded for annotations for this one. They normally are. So anyway, this was one that I appropriated from him and I intend to read hopefully before this school year is out. It shouldn't take me too long. It's very easy reading, I think. So that is my collection of children's classic literature that I have in my house. This is not an exhaustive list of recommendations, by the way. I can heartily recommend all of these books, but I have many more that I could equally recommend just as heartily. I just don't happen to have them on hand. These are only the ones that I have. So let me know in the comments if you have read any of these books, if any of them are your favorites, and what special editions do you have of classic children's literature that you want to keep forever and ever. And for the ones that I said I need to get myself a copy of, if you happen to know of a good edition that I should look for, let me know that in the comments too. And I will see you next time. Bye.